Welcome to the Literature Lounge, where writers and authors share their stories behind their stories. Hi, in today's episode, we have with us Gita Balakrishnan, who's based in Kolkata, is the founder and curator of Ethos, an organization dedicated to fostering discourse around the built environment. Her mission is to inject humanity back into designing homes and public spaces through initiatives like the Walk for Our Cause, where she journeyed 1,700 kilometers on foot through 6 Indian states. Yes, you heard that right. 1,700 kilometers on foot through 6 Indian states. Gita raises awareness about architecture, connects professionals and advocates for design as a fundamental right. So, welcome, Gita, to today's episode. And let's just begin by asking you what inspired you to embark on the journey from Kolkata to Delhi on foot? And weren't you scared? How did you prepare for such a challenging expedition, considering how dangerous the roads can be for women?
Thanks, Mohua. Thanks for having me on this show first. Yes, it seems like a distant dream now. It was 2 years ago that I undertook this journey on foot from Kolkata to Delhi, and 1,700 kilometers it was. Until then, I had spent 2 decades working with slums, with ground realities, and a lot of awareness building through ethos. And it struck me that we as designers and architects are far removed from ground realities. And hence, the idea of this walk kind of germinated. And the magic of the idea was kept alive for 5 years, actually, because the idea came to me in 2017. And finally, I took the plunge in 2022 when I saw reverse migration on foot. Well, walking on the roads can be dangerous for anybody in India, particularly, now that most of our roads are for vehicles more than for pedestrians.
Yes.
Especially highways, you do not have pedestrian pathways on most of these roads. So, but as far as a woman walking is concerned, I think the hours that I walked in were really early wee hours. And I was completely safe. I felt very safe in our country, actually. Every day, there was not a day where I felt uncomfortable or unsure about myself.
Now, that's wonderful to hear. I mean, considering the kind of cases that one hears across India, this is really a welcome change. So, what sparked the idea for writing this book during your 1,700-kilometer walk? Did you always plan to document your journey, or did the idea evolve as you walked along, the villages and the roads and the people that you met?
So yes, the documenting the journey was of course part of the plan. The objective was to create a stir, to understand local issues, relate back to the population who could make a difference, and using social media was always part of the plan. Hence, there was a videographer and a photographer who went with me, recording all those momentous events and activities. Journey really unfolded with every step, and what was important was revealed only as we went along. So yes, while documenting the journey was always on the cards, a book was not really on right in the start. It was at some point during the walk, seeing the interest that it was generated, experiencing what I did, it became a logical conclusion to the walk itself, that we needed to really reach this out to more people.
Wonderful. So, your book highlights themes of determination, resilience, and spiritual growth. I can only imagine. But, I'd really like you to tell our listeners about how did these themes really unfold during your walk and how did it influence the narrative of your book? Tell me a little bit about the resilience of the village folk that you met on your walk and the determination and your own spiritual growth. It would be wonderful to hear from you.
Actually, so nice that you brought this up. It was the hardest to put into words, the resilience and determination, both of my walk and of the common folk that I met along the way. But as I relived the moments when I got down to writing, the words seemed to flow to depict the emotions that I felt. I had started this walk knowing that it would be an inward journey as much as an outward one. Even if I wanted it otherwise, it could not have been, because when you're putting yourself through such an extreme physical regimen day after day, and you do not know what's going to happen next, you're really living in the moment. You are spending a lot of time with yourself. So I think, as far as the spiritual narrative, that's something that happened. And while it did change me a lot, coming back into city life again is kind of pulling me back to where I was. The concept of showstoppers in the book is something that I put in deliberately. it's intriguing. And I thought it's nice to, showcase some of those stories of determination through this theme of showstoppers. And I think that, I mean, if I was to pick on a couple, to talk about a widow, since you asked about the themes of resilience, uh, a widow whose name was Lilumuni Murmu. I met her in the Jungle Mahal part of West Bengal. And despite being a widow, she seemed to be the spokesperson for that community. And
Wow.
I thought, what better examples of resilience when someone who's and widowhood in Bengal can be hard, not just in Bengal, in many parts of our country, at least at a particular time, point in time, was very hard. And to be able to fight that and come out as someone who's a spokesperson, I thought was a superb example of resilience.
Oh, I think it's brilliant. Of course, widowhood in Bengal is very hard. There's still, and I completely agree with you, being a Bengali myself, I've seen the kind of, limitations that are put, and I'm sure it's across India, but in Bengal, definitely there are quite a few really horror stories that one has witnessed as a growing up girl. Now, through your journey, you engage with local communities, masons, villagers, activists, and immersed yourself in their cultures. How did these interactions shape your perspective on design and architecture? Architecture is considered so urban. So, how did all of that shape up your thought process?
How true. I mean, you, I think, said it when you said architecture is considered to be so urban. I think it's also considered to be very elite today. And that's something that kept hitting me through the journey. That, we really are walking an elite path. While design can, I mean, the whole objective of this walk was to explore how design can change lives. And here we are talking about design not being accessible to those who need it most. I mean, anything that you interact with, including, the medium that we are using today, is designed, right? And if we actually allowed design to percolate, just like healthcare and so much else percolates to communities, I think a lot could be done. You talked about masons. If only we looked at how our construction workers, there is this gap between the construction workers and us designers, and that gap needs to be kind of bridged. Because I think, I don't know how many of us designers even know uh, the names of any of our construction workers on our site. And they can be our ambassadors. They can be people who can go around telling everyone that there is someone called an architect. Architecture and architects are kind of unknown and irrelevant today, and that's something I experienced every day. So these things really shaped what I am doing today, where I've moved on to, and the activities that I am engaging in today.
So, Geeta, you know what? It'd be very interesting to know. So, did you keep a journal during the walk, or did you rely really on memory after you finished the entire 17-kilometer walk?
So the walk was meant to really relish and revel in what I was experiencing. So while I did carry a journal, I didn't use that as a medium for recording. I did leave voice notes to myself and to my team. I was constantly in touch with my team on a daily basis. There was a 8:45 to about 10 o'clock calls in the morning where I would tell them about the day before, where I would tell them about what we should change in terms of how we were crafting our engagement presentations that I was carrying with me, what we need to change, what we need to tweak. So there were recordings in that manner. And of course, the videography and the photography helped. And my memory is really sharp, at least so far. So it did help me, record what I witnessed. Yes.
Let's just talk a little bit about editing your manuscript. Did you do a bit of it all while you were on the road, or did you wait until you completed the entire walk?
So it all started after I completed the walk. I did write maybe essays for myself. I did write a little bit of poetry for myself. But actually putting pen to paper was something that I waited till the walk was over, till I felt ready to actually put it down, because it was a very, like I said, an inward journey as well. So it took a while for me to come back into the new normal. That is after 70 days of being on the road, coming back to regular life. And it was not it's very hard to relate how I felt at the end of the walk. So I spent a little while with myself, and then I started writing. So it did take a while after the walk that I actually started putting pen on paper for the manuscript.
So, Geeta, can you just share some of the encounters that were very, very challenging for you that you found very difficult to put into words?
Okay. If I was to start with the road, there were sections of the road. I mean, if I was to pick on a place, Singrauli is one place which I always talk about being the toughest part of the walk, where uh, because it was a coal mining region, the roads were pretty much non-existent, and there was coal all around. One was breathing in, inhaling coal, so I had to use masks, and the marks from the black of the coal still I carry them as trophies on my t-shirt and my shoes. So that was one part that was really hard. Then the climbing on some days, where I remember the road to the day I reached Ranchi was quite a bit of a climb. There were sections, I remember in Renukut, where thanks to election results in UP, there was a failure of internet, and there were traffic jams on the road, which meant I started walking on my own, and I had to navigate myself, and I kind of lost my team for about 10 kilometers, which is roughly 2 hours of the route, and had to find, actually, I had the presence of mind to follow the railway tracks to get to a station and be able to find my way out of there. So that was, as far as the route is concerned, that was challenging. But some of the encounters that were um, interesting and thought-provoking were, we don't openly talk about things like caste and untouchability and position of women anymore. But when you see, say, an outhouse to a house, and you start wondering who is living in that home, and then you discover that maybe the sister of the owner of the house, who's now a widow, is relegated to that quarter. Or when you see an older man going and touching the feet of a younger person, you start wondering I think different kinds of emotions kind of stir up, and those are also challenging moments for me. Yes.
Oh, yes, of course. I mean, I was just traveling with you because this is such a reality when you go into many, many parts of India. So for readers, who are going to pick up your book, what are the key takeaways or messages that you hope they will receive from your experience during the walk? We need to hear that from the horse's mouth.
So yes, I'm not real. This is the first time book for me. While I love writing, and I write for different. I've written for different architectural magazines, or for myself. This as a book coming together, it is the first. So I did a lot of putting myself in the shoes of the reader and the different kinds of readers. So if it was someone who's seeking motivation, or someone who's looking to be inspired for a journey like this, or a quest, any kind of quest, it doesn't have to be a walking quest, because a quest does need a lot of determination and steadfastness. So it's for them, or for someone who is looking to discover a different version of India, or someone who's looking at social messages. I think there would be something for each of these kind of readers. I also looked at the youth. I work a lot with the young through Ethos, and now Ethos Foundation. And I did again look at what the young reader today would want, and I made these chapters really tiny, which gives a sense of achievement. As you read, also you feel you've completed some part of the reading journey. So I did that as well. So I've tried my best to see what the reader would need. I have made it anecdotal, I have made it personal. So I've also talked about the kind of person I am, the kind of struggles I faced, which probably made me determined to complete a journey like this. And yeah, so it's got a lot in it.
Your book undoubtedly captures the essence of your 70-day journey, but are there any hidden gems or lesser known anecdotes that readers might discover within its pages?
So yes, I put myself in the reader's shoes when I was writing this book. I thought of the different kinds of readers. There could be those who are seeking motivation, those who are into, physical endurance challenges, those who are looking to achieve quests like this, or those who are readers who believe and would like to know more about an India that a person on foot can experience. So I've put in a lot of that. I've put in a lot of anecdotes about my life, which make me who I am, and make me this person who achieved this fairly incredible feat, even if I say so myself, the 1700 kilometers of walking. There are stories that I've uncovered about our landscape. I write, for instance, about the Mohua tree, which helped people overcome their hunger during famine, or even during COVID. It was kind of a lifesaver. I talk about border states of ours, border regions of our states, which do not get what they should in terms of infrastructure. So there's a lot of interesting things that for different kinds of readers that one could find.
So, your walks have focused on themes like uniting through design and advocating for universal accessibility. How do you see these initiatives addressing modern day problems like social inequality and exclusion?
I'm glad that this walk has brought a lot of focus on social responsibility of architects. I have been through my messaging after the walk and through the different initiatives that we've undertaken. We have been reaching out to architects, to colleges of architecture. In fact, we have about 42 clubs, which are social responsibility clubs, or ARCOS clubs as we call them, who have registered and who are working on exactly these issues. I think it's essential for our curriculum and our practices to incorporate addressing these issues of social inequality and exclusion into the way they design. I think built environment has the scope, whether it is built environment or even open spaces, urban environment, or even I would say rural environment for that matter. When you design, it has the power to actually help overcome some of these issues just through design, on how you bring about people coming together. How do you design without barriers, whether it is barriers socially, physically. I mean, those who have physical challenges. In fact, my fourth walk, which happened this year, was focused on universal design, where I address persons with disabilities specifically through design. So I think there's a lot that design can do for advocating universal accessibility, as you asked.
So tell me, I have to ask you a very tricky question. So, do you think architects should be held accountable for the environmental impact of their designs, including the carbon footprint, of construction, materials, and energy consumption? Do you think they should be held accountable?
I think yes, they should be held accountable. At the same time, I think we should also build. There are systems, and there are ways of measuring the carbon footprint of even materials. So I think even companies that actually manufacture, and we need to look at their carbon footprint as well, because sometimes you pick from the palette that's available to you, especially when you're designing for a modern environment. But yes, I think it's time that architects are, kind of nudged towards taking on responsibility for environmental impact. In fact, I'd go a step further, and I would say we should start evaluating buildings for even universal accessibility. According to law right now, it is illegal if you do not make your spaces accessible. I mean, I don't think it's being enforced, but there is an act, the RPWD Act, which makes it mandatory according to Section 44 that buildings are made accessible. And I think it's time that we got down to holding not just the architects, but also the promoters for this.
Oh, fantastic. So let's just talk a little bit about the challenges that you faced during the walk. How did you handle hunger? Did you fall ill? And the perennial question that I will ask a woman is about bathrooms, which is not easy. How
Yes,
did you
true.
manage all of that, during this 1700-kilometer walk through coal mines and, roads that were in not there? How did you manage that?
So yeah, I'd like to just correct you that the roads were fantastic most of the walk because I walked through largely highways, but there were sections which were really bad. But hunger, I don't think I felt it. I think when you're on a mission like this, some of these things go into the background. When I finished the day's mileage, then I would start feeling those huge pangs of hunger, which I needed to address. And I would carry stuff with me. I carried a peanut butter sandwich. I had, hydration fluid. I carried nuts. I carried dry fruits and so on. Strangely, there were times in the past when I was training and even pre-training, even today, if you ask me, I do get occasional headaches, maybe sometimes induced by extreme physical endurance as well. You do get that occasional cold. On the walk, there was not a day. There was just one day, in fact, I had a slightly runny stomach, but there was not a day when I actually took ill. I did have an injury, which unfortunately did bring my walk to a stop for a few days. But I managed to get out of that. Fortunately, it wasn't a fracture, and I was able to get out and continue my walk. Bathrooms, yes, that's another story. I think many of us women kind of relate to what I say when I say that I do not even want to use the toilet in the next room in my house. But here I was using any space that could be, was called a toilet, but which was really a hole in the wall very often. Um, I think as long as, and I think the first day I used the bushes was a day I celebrated, not just me, the whole team kind of celebrated because we realized that, okay, now that that has happened, I think, in case I have an emergency at some point, I would be open to using the bushes or a gated site that was abandoned or an abandoned construction site or an abandoned home and things like that. But I mean, it's interesting that many stretches of the route still do not have toilets. Most petrol bunks, by the way, were my go-to place. They weren't necessarily the swankiest, of course, but they were reasonably clean. I would you could just walk in, do your job, and walk out, and be all right with it. So I think you learned, and there's a lot I learned. In fact, there's a chapter called Toilet Tales. Since you asked about the anecdotes, there are a lot of anecdotes there on relieving yourself, and relieving yourself is the key word here.
Fantastic, Geeta. My God, I'm completely in awe of you. This isn't easy at all. So, can you tell us a little bit about the innovative solutions you're working on and how do you envision the future of architecture? That it would be very interesting to hear from you because, it's the first interview today where I've had an architect talk about, involving the laborers, involving people, who do not even know who's the architect and who's the promoter, who's the owner of the house. So, tell me, what is it that you have in mind?
So it's interesting that about 6 action areas got thrown up as a result of this walk. And they've crafted, they've been crafted as 6 initiatives or 6 pillars of Ethos Foundation. One of them is Shrama. Shrama obviously leads to construction workers, and I've already spoken a little bit about them. We are doing a lot of activities based in Maharashtra, Rajasthan, and Gujarat to bridge the gap that exists in society between construction workers and those that actually are implementing or directing the project. And I think that needs to be bridged for an equal society in a sense, because what do you call a skill? I mean, why would you say that a skill of designing is probably more supreme compared to someone who's crafting with their hands? That's also a skill. And I think each one has its important place. The second action area is Udita. Universal design is the answer. I've spoken about it through, when I talked about persons with disabilities, gender, making our spaces accessible and safe for all. I mean, if you have a fire, how do persons with disabilities exit? Or how are they evacuated? And if we, through design, can ensure that, these opportunities for entry and exit and proper use of every space is without barriers. That's the objective of Udita. I focus on something called Bodh, building on design histories, which is talking about traditional wisdom. A lot of beautiful buildings that I saw along the way. that talk about going back to earth once their time is over. And that's true sustainability. So that brings me to the fourth aspect of my fourth pillar, which is Saath, sustainability in thought and action, where you asked this question on environmental accountability. And I think that's something environmental accountability and justice should figure. Making design accessible is under the head of other affordable designer, right? And the last one is, of course, design literacy, where we educate people about the importance of design. These are the 6 action areas that I'm working on. And I think about envisioning the future of architecture, I can only say I have this beautiful hope and dream that the future of architecture will be a lot more responsible towards the environment, towards people, towards our ancient histories, towards society, culture, what have you.
I don't think we have a choice there.
Right.
We have to get responsible. What is the last piece of advice you'd like to give aspiring architects who are considering embarking on their own epic journey?
Yeah, I have a chapter in the book, and it's a favorite quote of mine as well. The journey is the destination. And I think that's something that I would like to tell all my architect young friends. When they are embarking on their own journey, look at the process that takes you there as well. Look at the process that takes you there as well. That can be as exciting and as giving as the destination. And I think also, to believe in yourself. It's may seem cliched, but having done what I have, I think to believe that you can achieve and you can bring about change is something that can happen. Talk to people, engage with communities, engage with your, who you're building for. You might have a client, but the actual people who are using it are going to be different. Engage with them, learn from them, and I think you'll churn out a lot better work.
Thank you so much, Geeta, for being on today's podcast. And we look forward to more people picking up your book, learning more about your absolutely epic journey. All the best. And thank you for being here today with us.
Thanks, Mohua. Thank you so much. Been a pleasure.